All right, welcome everybody to another episode of our Shot Show, where we get together and talk about Shot Show. And this week, or last week, we were chatting about. Well, I guess before we get into that, Clover joins us. CloverTac from Texas, joining us for these shows. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, appreciate the invite.
So last week we were chatting about gear and kind of put off talking about the electronics, the cameras, and the equipment that we would bring. We talked more about. Do we even talk about backpacks? I guess we talked a little bit about backpacks and
We
the
did a little bit.
clothing and a little bit of that kind of stuff. So the soft gear, I guess.
We didn't get into
Um,
the loadout. That's probably a whole separate thing.
yeah, what was in the bags? Yeah, exactly. And that's well, and
We didn't get into
um,
the loadout. That's probably
that's myself listening to myself here. So that's probably something that I can summarize by just saying it changes over time, and it's going to also change with what your goals are for the show. Kind of obvious. But we're going to talk about the gear and that kind of thing. So this isn't your first rodeo. You've had conversations like this before. Let's look at it this way. How many conversations do you think you've had about gear for Shot Show?
hmm, like live, like on the record, or
Oh, that's a
period.
good question. Yeah,
Right on the
that would
on
be
the
tough. That's
record,
impossible. So yeah, I'm thinking on the record, like how many
on the
actual shows dedicated to it, as opposed
yeah,
because I don't think we could count how many times we talked about it.
on the record. My podcasts or lives or otherwise. Yeah, dozens easily, easily.
Yeah, me too. So I just wanted to use that as sort of an indicator for people that might be joining and that don't have any kind of way of knowing how often we talk about this stuff. There's people that roll their eyes when we talk about Shot Show, probably for a reason, because we talk about Shot Show a lot. That's a big deal. People that go probably have some idea, but 20, 60,000 people, I forget the number now. Is it 60,000 people show? 60,000 people total, 40,000 people attendees, something like that, maybe. And somewhere in there, 2,000 something media. And that can go up and down depending on the year. So, like last year was obviously a really light year. But with that many people showing up, certainly not everybody, there's no way everybody enjoys it. And not just oh, this was a bad year, but some people probably hate Shot Show and go for some reason that they have to or they do, but they don't like it. I guess I'm trying to think of anybody I know that doesn't like it. I listen to people who say they don't like it, but I don't know of anyone that doesn't like going.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've never heard of anybody that's went that has a general reason. I mean, they'll say they don't like it, but it's like they
Then they
can't
keep going though.
articulate. They keep going and they can't articulate why. Right? It's like I get it. You don't like the long hours, or you don't like all the walk, or how tiring it is, or whatever. Right? Um, and you got to realize that from the industry side of things, those guys are standing around in those booths for hours and hours and hours. They've got this huge show at their disposal that they can't really take in and absorb like say somebody from
At all.
media or an attendee could, right? So
At all. All they get is their breaks.
yeah, so that's got to be frustrating on that side of things.
When
Um,
you bring it up that way, that makes a lot of, and then think about it also that they're getting paid to be there potentially, right? Because they're an employee or they're part of a organization, so they're getting paid to be there. Well, nobody's just paying you to hang out and be there. They want you to accomplish something while
well,
you're there, so you're on the clock while you're getting paid to be
and
there.
that brings up another point of when you're out there, if you're not a part of media, if you're not a part of the industry, if you're outside looking in, I know some really big gun tubers that have, said, "Oh, Shot Show sucks," or whatever the case may be. And I know for a fact they went for literally one day and they were paid to go that one day. Like a company paid for them to come, or a couple of companies, and make booth appearances or whatever. Right. So consider the source. A lot of times when you're talking to people, it's kind of the same way I said with the industry, and G was elaborating too. The industry people are going to have a whole different opinion, and that's wrapped in a whole different type of context. And some of the larger YouTubers that want to complain about Shot Show is the same thing. They want to complain about it, but yet they've gotten paid thousands of dollars on top of all expenses paid to come out and make these booth appearances and stuff, for a day at SHOT Show, and then they want to trash it and go, "Oh, the show sucked," and da da da. Well, I guess it did for you because you flew out to Vegas, you stood around in some booths for a few hours, you had some fans suck up to you for a little bit. Some companies took you out to dinner and you flew home. So I'm assuming, yeah, that for me that would probably suck too.
Well, all right. So, so going on with that though, the employee of the booth, let's say a booth person, whatever, a manufacturer or whatever it is, company, school, sometimes the man in the booth, they're paying for all those employees. They're going to expect something out of those employees, but everybody knows that it's costing money to be there, right? So they're, they've got that on their mind or whatever. The people that they might be bringing, like you're talking about, they're going to expect something out of them. So if they don't perform, if they do like you just mentioned there in that scenario, I can't even imagine. It's 2000 media. We're YouTube centric for sure, and probably the audience is familiar with YouTubers. But think about the writers, somebody who gets some kind of a gig to be there to cover something, and they just don't do it well, or they don't do it enough, or whatever. Or they do it well and they do it enough, but it doesn't land. They can't make people want to be interested in something, or it can be perfect and everything, and then something can come along and in the news or in the world, and then it's not the time or the year for that thing. And even though it was perfectly done or perfectly executed, it was the wrong time to do it and it didn't pay off. Well, that person may be told, hey, that was great, but for whatever reason, it's never going to happen again. Now, if that person is asked, how was SHOT Show? They might say, hey, that's a horrible thing. It's hit or miss. You can't, it's a gamble and it costs a lot of effort. And, I spent that much time and effort and it didn't pay off. So I could have done something else. Right. So there's a lot of stories at SHOT Show. And because it's so expensive and so big, there's a lot of expectations from it. So I think there's people that are going to love it because they don't do anything. And then there's people that love it because they do a lot. And there's people that hate it because they don't do anything. And then there's people that hate it. I don't know what to call that. Like, because I think more of the story you said, where they just didn't accomplish what they could have, or
yeah. Well, we hit on that a little bit on another show. So there are people that haven't watched the previous ones. I mean, you might jump back, especially if you're planning on going to SHOT Show and check those out. But we hit on the whole idea of trying to remain fluid, and Ghost. I see Ghost is out there this morning, but Ghost brought this up in the side chat in one of those, and I know he made some pretty critical mistakes early on, to where he scheduled a lot of like meeting type stuff, a lot, and basically he just ran from meeting to meeting to meeting, pretty much the entire show, and that sucked for him as compared for as far as enjoying the show. I think he would tell you, as far as you know, uh, getting things done and everything, he was able to get more done by not scheduling all that. So that could be. I got a few examples of booth experience and things like that. Um, when we're talking about working with the industry and things, but maybe we put a pin in that and cover that at least partially in a different show. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be a separate show because it's not really gear, but then gear can play a part of it, because when we're talking gear today, I think what we're talking is cameras and tripods and software maybe, and strategies and that. So that's where you can run into that, carrying around a tripod and a fancy camera, something that's decent for coverage, right? Not everybody's taking video. Not everybody's filming a or recording a podcast. A lot of people are going there with cameras to take pictures, and there's good lighting there, but you want to have perfect lighting for this and that. Maybe it's your opportunity to create a catalog or something, and this is an opportunity to get every item in 2023 for that catalog or something, or that project you're working on. So you want to bring something consistent with you, like a backdrop and everything. Well, are you going to bring all that stuff with you on the first day? Or do you bring something along the first day and then get these relationships and get some appointments made, and then do a hybrid thing? And then Thursday and Friday are your appointments where you're bringing all your stuff. And now you've gotten the lay of the show. You've gotten some arrangements made with people where you can stash things or cache some items, extra batteries here, this and that. You bring in your load of stuff, you drop off the first spare set of batteries at somebody's booth who's nice enough to do it for you. If you're, again, listening to this as somebody who's got a booth, think about how you can be of service and your booth can be a resource for content creators. If they need someplace to charge, right? You can do all that stuff on a day when you plan for it, plan those interviews for that kind of stuff. And then maybe somebody even goes, if you assume that you're going to just wing it, and this is the danger of winging it, you never, you're not guaranteed anything, but you're certainly not guaranteed anything if you don't prepare for it. So if you just wing it and you go around on Thursday even, but definitely on Friday, you might walk up to a booth and find out that, oh yeah, we had one of those, but we gave it to the other booth, like let's say it's Spyderco and you go there to look for a knife or something. Oh yeah, we had one. And, yeah, we had 3 of them, but we gave them to the other booth because they had given them to somebody or something, some story. And now you went there to get those pictures and the stuff you wanted to take pictures of is gone. And, so you can't depend on stuff necessarily.
I think it works. I think it's
worth started with how much gear.
And again, we're getting more into tactics, so that maybe strategy, maybe that's a different show. But
I'm just applying that to gear.
I agree with what you're saying, that especially Friday and Thursday gets to that point too, that if you're talking about doing, and it all depends on, and this is where we're going to get into gear, because with gear, it does depend on your strategy. It depends on your attack plan. What how you approach the show is your gear is totally dependent upon that. So it's interlaced in a way. But if you plan on doing any booth reviews, I do very few booth reviews. If I do anything in booths, it's usually by request of the company, right? They've asked me, would I do that? And I've got a good relationship with that company. Of course, I'm going to do that. If they ask me to do that, without a doubt. Sometimes, very, very rarely, you'll run across a new item or a new company, and it's something that's, oh man, I really need to, I want to do this, right? And so I'll do something impromptu, but usually it's agreed upon ahead of time. What I was going to say, or how I was going to tie that, booth review approach into definitely Friday and maybe Thursday. I would say definitely don't do it on a Friday. And you might not even consider it on a Thursday. Wednesday might be the better day. And the reason I say that is, as you go through SHOT Show, remember these employees, these people in these booths, they've got their same spiel. They, are in these booths all day, every day. And then they had to set up, they know they're looking to tear down possibly, and all these other things they've got to do. And as the week goes on, they lose their enthusiasm, right? There's something to be said about that. They, maybe don't do it on the first day, because that gives them the opportunity to say that spiel over and over and over again to people. But maybe on like Wednesday, and the first day is Tuesday, if people don't know, maybe do that on a Wednesday, right? Or a Thursday, but definitely not Friday, because you want some enthusiasm and you want some excitement. And I've noticed that if you do things on a Friday, it's like people are just wore out and tired. And, even as a creator, as media working the floor, you're worn out and tired too. So the energy, I guess, or whatever in that video, a lot of times is not there. So that may be a day. For me, Friday is a day, and again, we need to get back into gear. But for me, Friday is a day it's the last day. For me, it's a day to say goodbye. It's to finalize the contacts. It's to go back through. And I may pick up on things I missed along the way. Sure, it's all part of remaining fluid. But it's going back, and especially the companies that I have, met during SHOT Show, had agreements, great conversations with. It's going back, and they see me one last time before I'm out of there, right? That way, hopefully, I've made an impression. I refresh that in their mind by touching base with them, even if it's just to say bye on a Friday, and then I'm gone. But yeah, we need to probably jump into gear 15 minutes in.
Putting up a poll over there. So we've got the poll going. What I just put up. How would you record SHOT Show if you're going to SHOT Show? If you are, or you would be going to SHOT Show if you're listening right now. There's some people listening live. How would you record SHOT Show? Would it be with a good camera and lighting? Would it be with like a medium camera that's a little faster? Would it be with a cell phone? which is the ultimate fast, but obviously there's not a lot of lighting or adjustments there. And then the all out, which would be not just a good camera and lighting, but these aren't really in order, but I put it at the end here. Everything, photo, audio, and video, like the whole everything. And it's totally possible. So I know that Clover is talking about ghost comment out there, and those guys are kind of on the same path or whatever. So there's a couple of things I'm going to throw out and then let Clover go at it again. But well, just to hit Ghost's comment, which I think you were kind of reading as you were talking there, but Ghost says, I literally carry 3 phones and 2 mics now. I'll take a tripod if I have a scheduled booth video. Now I just take some B-roll and pics, but just meet with the companies and talk. I don't do booth reviews hardly at all anymore. And that's almost when you were saying that same thing. But here's the deal. These guys are X amount of years in, and they're having an evolution of their experience with their channels and with SHOT Show and its evolution, and then the content, the people that absorb content, the people that are the viewers or the readers, right? So each of those evolve. And so one of the things I'll throw to Clover is you've had to experience at this point, especially with last year, how different SHOT Show can be. SHOT Show is not linear. It's definitely, it's not circular either. It's not in a pattern necessarily, but it has some extremes that it goes into. And then at the same time, and this is a result, I mean, the reason SHOT Show was different earlier this year, was because of the craziness of the last couple of years. So the craziness of the last couple of years shows you where the audience and where the, I don't want to say just the audience, because it's really the community and the people, the people who, the customers of the people that go to SHOT Show, right? The industry, except not the industry, but the other side, the purchasers, you know, the end users of firearms. It's their tastes and their preferences. And since we have the last couple of years of craziness that created a bunch of new gun owners who are not just, now I like guns again and I'm going to buy another revolver, but like, I'm new to guns and I'm going to look around and figure out things for the first time. What they're looking for is what you guys were probably doing when you first started, which was, hey, let's index everything at SHOT Show. Let's find everything and take videos of the stuff that's important and stuff that's new and the stuff that people like. And there's something to be said for having your finger on the pulse of what people are looking for or what audiences would be looking for, right? Like what would quench the taste of the audience as opposed to what's easy to do at SHOT Show or what's at your level of, because everybody's at their own place is where they're at with their relationships with companies and stuff. So that's a bunch of stuff, but
yeah, that's why I said it really needs us on show. You know, what I would add to that real quick is yeah, you're right in that it's linear, but there's also a recycling aspect of it. And Ghost hit on it out there, and it was what I was going to say. As you have people that, you know, they go to SHOT Show, they're excited, they do just a ton of booth reviews that first year, and then they realize, holy crap, you know, okay, I got a bunch of content, but I really didn't network and grow my contacts, and I should have done more of that, you know. And as they evolve, you have new creators that are coming in that hit all those booth reviews. So as a collective quote unquote media, right? Like all the boxes for SHOT Show, the coverage, all of the boxes get checked in some way or fashion.
are there to be checked. The potential is
Yeah.
there. Right. You're saying like,
right.
I think that's what you're saying. And I'm saying the same thing. Like a used car salesman going to SHOT Show is going to be different than a professional photographer going to SHOT Show, different than a therapist going to SHOT Show. Everybody's got a different interest and skill set. They're all going to look at it differently. And that photographer is going to come out with pictures that the other two are never going to get. But the other two would come out with relationships and resources that the photographer would have just missed because they're focusing on the photography.
But I think you've got people that go to their first years. What I was adding to the mix, I think you've got people that go for the first time, that they focus on those simple things. I think booth reviews, the indexing the show, that's the keep it simple, stupid, the brainless, you know, just really simple thing. You go to SHOT Show, you go to these shows, you cover the booths, you cover the products, right? That's like the very first thing that most people that are creators or whatever media that they pick up on and they clue into, right? So you always have a batch. Again, as a collective, you always have a batch of people that are doing that. And then so that lessens some of the pressure on those that have gone for years to be able to evolve, to be able to do other things, because we know that basic, I don't want to call it low hanging fruit, because I mean there is a point to that. It definitely is valuable. But it's almost like that stuff's low hanging fruit, right? It's right there, it's obvious.
I mean, it's definitely the potential is great and it's plentiful. But if you're talking like the idea of, I'm going to call it like our 2009, I guess, where we just decided to go nuts with video and lay into it, and we figured out how to do it at the time. You know, what worked in 2009, and that was to go in with a camera and just start rolling and have the person talk about. Because back in the day, I guess the experience at a booth has changed, right? So as people are videoing more stuff and they hire people who are comfortable being on video, right? That's different than back in the day when it would be the inventor of the stuff and he might mumble his way through something. And every once in a while, there was somebody that paid for a professional person to say what was going on in their booth, but usually it was just whoever invented it or whoever works there talking about whatever their stuff is. And once they started figuring out that people are going to walk up with a phone and they're going to be on YouTube, unless they were the type to want to be that person, they started bringing those people in. And then they had competent people explaining their stuff. So once we had competent people explaining their stuff, or people that were comfortable and competent to, efficiently go through their stuff, you can catalog an entire company's stuff, like everything. Think of a knife company, a bag company, a boot company, whatever it is, guns, I guess. You can go through and have somebody talk about it just the same way they would if a potential gun shop guy was coming in and saying, I've never had XYZ at my shop before. Why would I want to? And which ones would I? What would be? What's the differences here? What do I want? Or what am I looking at? And then the person would go through and say, hey, whatever, what part of the country you in? Well, your customers might want this, that, or the other thing, and this is some of the products we offer. You videotape that and post it. Each of those videos, I mean, there's lots of strategies there. I guess we don't have to get all into that, but that can be definitely an interesting way to, a useful way to take shot or approach shot. I don't think that's low hanging fruit, but it's low hanging. It can be easy to obtain portions of that, right? Like pieces of that or versions of that quickly and easily, and you kind of get that experience. Now you can get the experience of talking to people while you're getting video the same way that you can get video while you're talking to people, right? Like you can shift that 60, 40, 40, 60 pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree. But to do that, you need gear. So
yeah. Well, we only got about 20 minutes in, but so I guess the reason to explain this is I don't think either one of us is going to say this is what you want to bring. So all of this was just to suggest that there's a million ways you can approach this, and your path or whatever your growth through being a content creator is going to change each year. So let's talk about some of the ways. I guess we can go. Let's just start with what we got and go backwards. I want to start with what we would bring if we had ultimate. I don't know which way we should bring. If you're listening to this live, feel free to be part of this conversation. We're not just here to conversate in front of you, and you can feel free to be part of it. But go ahead.
I think before we start getting anything specific as far as gear, one thing that I would advise, and it's a no brainer, especially for folks that are new. I mean, if you're new, and there's something to be said about being familiar with your equipment, right? It's like, the whole thing of not going into battle with somebody else's rifle idea. You want to, maybe you film in a studio, maybe you film out on the range, like all the time. That's where you film, right? And you've never made a show. Maybe you've made shows, but you got to realize that certain shows, depending on the venue, the construction of the venue, the height of the ceiling, the amount of people there, potential electronic interference, there's lots and lots of things that go on. And I would say you don't have to create videos with that, but at least push and test your gear in multiple scenarios and situations prior to going to any show, not just SHOT Show. Um, maybe, I mean, a really crowded restaurant might be a good idea. Set up a camera on a tripod, or take your microphone with you. And not just does it work well, but positioning, right? Move that microphone around. If it's a little fail mic on your body, if it's a shotgun mic, move it different, tweak it different directions, right? And record while you're doing this and talk about it. That way, when you play this back, hey, I'm fixing to turn the microphone 45 degrees to the left, and then turn it to the left and go, okay, now the microphone's that way, and then that way when you play that back, or you look at that footage, you can remind yourself what was going on at the time, right?
Yeah, Shannon at a mirror or something. Exactly. Take a snapshot
Yeah,
with your phone of your
like
setup. Yeah.
if you've got I learned this at Wanamaker, like t-shirts, if you've got bags and shirts behind you, oh gosh, it works. The audio is so good if it's pointing back toward that, like your shotgun microphone, as opposed to a solid concrete wall or something, right? It's just because all of that stuff absorbs
Is that why they
that
take those
sound.
microphones on a boom and shove it down at the person so that they're just getting the floor behind them?
That's possible, especially if it's
I never
carpeted.
thought about it, but when you
If
said that, those
Yeah.
microphones are always pointing straight down at them usually.
Well, not all those microphones. A lot of those microphones don't pick up down. They pick up out. In other words,
Oh, okay.
the the whatever, I don't know the technical terminology on all the parts and pieces of the microphone, unfortunately, but um, yeah, they pick up. You've got omnidirectional, unidirectional. You have condenser mics that pick up in a certain area, right? And so it's important. So I say it's important to know your gear, know what you got, know which direction, especially in microphones. And I hit on that first for a reason. People will put up with a certain amount of video issue. It can be grainy, the lighting can be off, things like that. But audio, you start losing people real quick if they can't hear and understand what's going on. And so I would say focus on audio, number one. But the same thing with your camera. Again, if you're outdoors shooting on a range and you normally film like that and you have ambient light with the sun, daylight's the best lighting you could possibly have, given harsh shadows or something like that.
Right. And this is Vegas, so this is Nevada, and it could be on a bright day. Well, there's not too much outdoor stuff, but it is at media day.
There's
So there's
not, but my point is the indoors is going to be totally different. I mean, the lighting and all is not horrible in there.
There's sunlight. There's sunroofs in the new building, right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So a bright day will be different. So don't expect consistent lighting every day. If it's cloudy 1 or 2 days and it's bright the other 2 days, it's going to be different lighting in the one building.
Yeah.
And
So
that could be a
before
big
we
deal from somebody.
Yeah, and so I just bring that up before we get into, start talking about gear or specific components. Make sure you've tested that gear in a variety of situations, regardless of what your normal day-to-day content you do at home
You're going to
or
want to do
whatever it
that
is.
because you want to get familiar with your gear too. So just like your shoes, you don't want to be wearing out new shoes at a
True. Yeah.
first time you walk in with them. Get used to that stuff. Know what it's like to shove it into a bag real quick. Know what it's like when you spill spaghetti sauce on it. I think Ghost said try different mic setup. Wait, no. What was I looking at? Oh, gear depends on how you're covering SHOT Show. A printed media person will have a different setup than a YouTuber, will have a different setup than a podcaster, right? Everyone needs a camera, etc., a phone, etc., a notepad, business cards. That's a good point. So I'm going to put a little star by that so that we remember the business cards part whenever we're talking about gear finally. But so the thing about what he's saying there is about the phone or whatever too is, and what Clover was saying is kind of when I read what Ghost said, I was thinking what Clover was saying, and I wanted to just bring up that be aware of what tech is happening. At this point, you can record on video, get to some place, and depending on how you want to do it, either with your phone or your computer or a web app, pull the text off of that. Like you don't have to type things anymore. You can have a transcription of your video done for you by the robots. And since that's already available, I can think of 3 different ways to get a transcription off of a video. three different, like I said, three different sources, free. Then, well, no, I guess one of them isn't free, but three different ways. And if that's the case, I can't imagine what AI sound is like. I mean, I've seen some crazy AI imaging because I've looked for it. I haven't looked at AI sound, but I'll bet you there's some AI sound filters and things for some of the software that just can yank SHOT Show background noise out, at least compared to a few years ago.
Most of the when you're dealing with audio, and well, video too, nothing will ever compare with getting the source right.
No,
Ever.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm just saying, like, there are things that can clean up,
Yeah.
though.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. A little bit.
And then
Can't
the
take it
other the
from.
other thing is, I'm going to put another caveat on this, that whatever your thing is, you're allowed to have your thing, and whatever your focus is, that could be what people dig, because you don't know. It's not like there aren't popular podcasts, and there's not. There are very popular photographers. There's very popular people that just hang out and don't do anything. I mean, there's definitely not just being popular, but I mean like very successful projects that do all different ways of doing SHOT Shows. So none of these are like the perfect way. But what I guess I was saying is, I think the downfall of everybody I've known who's had downfalls is putting too much effort into their stuff, too much effort into what their final product's going to be. And sometimes it's steering the ship. They go there with with some intent the first year. They go there with the second year to like get better. Third year, they struggle. And by the fourth year, they're doing some crazy stuff. Sometimes third or fourth year, they're doing some crazy stuff with maybe microphones, or maybe it's cameras, or maybe it's bringing people. It's just different things that they'll sometimes get too crazy, and then they'll never be satisfied with whatever it is they're spending all that effort and attention on. And I don't know, I'm being vague because it's happened so many times.
Mm,
As I'm saying it, I'm thinking of different people in different situations, but that's one of the things I want to caveat too. Like, one of the reasons I'm doing this is to give people some information so that they don't spin out, so that they don't go too fast around the corners and just put too much effort into it and then don't appreciate that they could be in it for the long run.
well, realize that when you're talking about these events, and we're specifically talking SHOT Show, but it can apply to anything. That the obstacles that are there because of the environment, because of the location, because of the nature of that show. Everybody getting content is dealing with those in some way, shape, form, or fashion, right? So trying to obtain perfection out of there um, is not really a good approach or a good idea. At some point, done is better than none in those situations. And I found that for the most part, I know I haven't got. I can do a regular video and have audio hiccups that I can't get all of them out, right? And it's like I'm not reshooting this, I'm not redoing it, and I'm thinking it's good enough, and I throw it up, and I actually get feedback in the comments about the audio. I don't know that I've ever done anything at a show that I've had anybody complain about the audio, like ever. And so I think that, when you're talking about content and people are watching or listening to that, like I said, sometimes good is good enough because they understand that it's a totally different situation than you in a quiet room or out on a quiet range or in the woods or whatever it might be. It's a much different situation. They understand that and say that they don't hold it to the same standard, so to speak.
That's a good point. And you're right, as you described that. It's like I just thought of, like, when you're out recording, you will wait for the car to go by. Like, you wait for the
Right.
whatever turkey to stop rattling or whatever's going on. And then
Yep.
you record, and then you get mad when you got a little click or something.
Right. Right.
Right. But that's the other thing, is you go do like what you guys are saying, go record a restaurant, go do some videos at the range. We got ranges, go to the range. It's an excuse to go to the range. I got to go to the range and do some recording. Just record nothing, make video, but do whatever. And then you get used to, well, how to deal with that stuff. But you also get used to having it on your audio. Like you said, nobody cares. And it's part of the live thing, or
Right.
part of the ambiance noise, or whatever that's called.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, we pretty much managed to not talk about gear for half of the show, but that's okay. We got plenty of time till SHOT Show's
We're
still.
moving that way.
Yeah, I mean, we're also trying to preface it and give people some insight without just saying, buy this camera, here's a link to Amazon, or buy
Well,
this thing or whatever.
and then the last 25 minutes here or whatever, I mean, we can knock out the gear. I mean, because as we've talked about, that's going to be specific to people's
Well,
goals and
there's no way we're going to
what
be
they
like,
want
buy a
to do.
Canon this and that. We're going to be like cell phone podcast recording thing, like camera, video camera. You know, we're going to,
Yeah,
there's not that much.
microphones, something to record audio, something to record video, battery backups, something to stabilize your shots potentially. Um, and honestly, that's it. I mean, I would not even bother carrying around a bunch of lighting gear, or there's ring lights, there's little portable lights, and there's other things. That's just mine. I mean, could you do that? Yeah, you could do that. But I think the video with there's people don't often give cell phones a lot of credit, and cell phones are not all created equal. I learned this there for a short period of time. I switched away from Apple products, and when I first switched away from Apple products, that's at what point I was starting to shift into primarily using phones for recording video. And one thing that I quickly found was that my Samsung phones did not handle, I guess it would be exposure. They did not handle lighting in the same way that the iPhone. In other words, the iPhones had better cameras. Um, and so what I would do in that situation is I just picked up a couple of used iPhones that I used specifically for my cameras at that point, because they had better cameras on them. I've graduated now to the newer generations of the Android, the Samsung phones. I've got two now, my primary, and then the older one. But the cameras are
What year?
better.
How old are these cameras, these phones?
My newest one is less than a year, and the other one's about 2 years, something like that.
Um,
The ones I've got now. But I use those iPhones, which are older than dirt. I still use them for B-roll and target cams and stuff. So I mean, they still work for a variety of uses. I would not use one of them going to a show, because they do not handle lighting situations and stuff as good as
what
the
about battery
newer
life?
phone. The
Because you're the
battery life is good enough on them, right? And
for a
that's
show
where
though, they'd last all day.
um yeah, depending on how much you record. I mean, if you're at the show, if I'm at a show for 8 hours, I'm not recording for 8 hours. So, yeah.
Well, and if you got
Now,
6 phones, you're not recording that much on each phone either.
right,
And
yeah, if you
it's
have
way
multiples,
easier to
yeah.
hold 3 or 4 phones in the space that
Well,
my one old $50 camcorder used to be.
and it's all a matter of having the right stuff. For example, it takes nothing. So I can use just to give an example of, okay, battery. Okay, so let's say I've got two main phones right now. I've got my Samsung 20, and then my 20 Plus or whatever, and the Samsung 10 Plus.
Just say
So,
year-old phone and a couple-year-old phone.
yeah, a couple of year old at most. So let's say that I'm at the show and the battery on the one maybe is starting to get low, and I've got a couple other videos I've got to knock out. Well, I'm gonna have battery banks, right?
These
So
phones that you got have that fancy space age battery where you just hold the battery charger near it, or do you got to plug them in still?
both of these are wireless charging. Yeah,
So you can
yeah.
just have a wireless charger in a bag. Every time you put your phone in your bag, it's charging again.
Yeah, if it's close enough to it, it will. But
So
that's
you could
not.
just make a pocket be right next to it, and it
Well,
would just do that.
you could, yeah, you could
Or
do
you could
that.
have a pocket that's your charging pocket, and every time you put a phone in there, it's charging.
Well, I mean, if I do that, what I do is just run a Velcro strap around the two, so they're together. You know what I mean?
Well, whatever. You come up
Hold
with a
them next to
system
each
and you
other.
can walk
Yeah,
around with they're mated and charging while
but
you're using another phone.
you don't even have to do that. Let's say you don't have that technology. I mean, you could plug it in
I
and
don't.
have it in your backpack. One thing I was going to say, one thing I do is the bag, and I already got it anyway. The bag that my Meyer pouch, I guess you would call it, that my microphones are in, are the little drawstring type pouches. I could take that. There's a hook on the bottom of almost all tripods, and that's an anchoring hook. And so I can actually put a battery backup in that pouch, hang that pouch on that hook, and then run a wire up to my camera. And then so it's plugged in. I can still record with it. It's just it's plugged into the battery backup because the battery's kind of low. So I can still charge with a cable while I'm recording video and stuff. So like you say, it's just having the foresight to understand that can be an issue, and then um, having methods by which to handle it. I'm not a big fan, since we're on the battery backup thing. I am a fan of having battery backups for sure, especially once you know your equipment and how long you're able to record, or phone's going to last, or a camera battery, or whatever. Um, Microphone batteries. Big fan of having those, but I'm not a big fan of having a ton of them. Um, I've went I've graduated, and I used to be that way because those things typically
You mean a
individual.
lot of little ones? You rather have a couple of big ones?
I'd rather have a couple of larger ones than I had four smaller ones. Same capacity, right? Same capacity in mind. I'd rather have two. Let's say I'd rather have two 20,000 milliamp than have four 10,000 milliamp.
Would you
That's
rather
less
get?
I've got to. That's less I've got to tote around. That's
Yeah,
less that I've got to recharge at night. That's less ports
exactly.
I've got to have,
You
and
got to
everything
keep
else.
track of which one's empty and
Yeah,
which one's full, either.
right.
So,
Yeah.
would you rather get a key ring and a pen or a bumper sticker, or a small USB charger from for as merch or swag, I
Wow,
guess? Right,
that's a good question. A small
right.
USB charger. Hmm.
So, USB chargers you can probably get a USB charger that's got your catalog on it, right? And you can get something to engrave on there or wrap around it like a sticker or something, or
Hmm.
have it from someplace. I don't know if you get it this late in the game, molded into some way. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out there for people that might have booths or whatever that having a charger, like one that you can loan out, maybe one that you give to somebody and say, whenever you're done, give it back. And if you don't, send it back, just mail it back. So basically write them off. But that could be a lifesaver for somebody's channel. And, they're going to appreciate that. They're going to remember that for a long time. Let's see. So we going all over the place on that one. um, we're about 45 minutes in, and we're trying to keep it in an hour. I don't know if that's going to happen. We didn't even really talk about gear. This is just going to be a gear-ish show, a gear-adjacent show. We kind of talked about cell phones for a bit there, but it's not as, phones aren't the only tech we've got. For one, it's a phone, so it has to have Wi-Fi, and then we got apps and things. And if you're using apps and things, you're not going to necessarily run apps and whatever on the same phone you're going to be videotaping on, or you got a super phone. That's a lot of effort for one phone. So you're probably going to be walking around with multiple phones, and then there's just other things, Wi-Fi's and real cameras and audio recorders. So like I said, probably let's just say we're going to do another chat at least about gear. So if you've got specific questions about it, feel free to, if you listen to this in the future or whatever, feel free to keep them for next week or next time that we do gear again. We might do something else next week, so we're not doing nothing but gear here. But I
Well, it's
am
important
using.
to hit. It's important to hit on different things because inevitably, even if we say, okay, we're going to talk about gear on this next show, we're going to go off on some kind of tangent. It's going to happen.
Well, there's just a lot to it, and even
Yeah.
though we've only really been talking about cells and batteries, just the questions that have come up about them are going to take the rest of the show for sure.
Yeah.
So we do have I'm using a feature over here. I got the poll going, and the poll is, how would you record SHOT Show? With a good camera with lighting, walking around with a decent camera with some lighting, or with a less decent, like I would say the cameras I used, a medium, a medium quality, but a faster camera, one you can get out, use it, and put it back away, or a cell phone, the ultimate in fast, or just everything. Like you're bringing separate audio, you're bringing lighting, you're bringing video, and taking stills, and just going all out. It looks like most people are going with a cell phone. About an equal number of people are going all out or just with a decent camera, and nobody's going with a medium camera. Well, as you may have guessed, the medium camera is probably the best bet on that list. But we have another feature we're using right now. and that is the questions feature of YouTube. So YouTube, we're trying to debate if YouTube came up with this in response to just StreamYard, or if other software is using it and they're just trying to do it. But they have a question thing going, so we can highlight these questions. I think I'm highlighting right now, how epic is SHOT Show? So it's not happening on the screen, I guess, right? It's only happening in the, let me look. Yeah, it's only happening in the text. But just so Clover can answer the question, how epic is SHOT Show? Is he still here?
Yeah, I had to find the mute button. How epic is SHOT Show? Ooh, that's gonna all depend on the person's perspective. But as I continue to tell GunTubers Creator Media, it is the pinnacle of our craft. Going there as far as the potential for opportunity, the percentage wise for opportunity, and pretty much no matter what you do in the firearm industry, outdoor industry space, it's the show. I mean, period, hands down, bar none. It's it. So, and what frustrates me, um, with people that, and I get it, that they got this going on in their life, this or that or whatever, and I just can't do it. It's like if you ever go, it's like we started the show out talking about this, right? Like we understand because we've been, right? And like we've never really heard anybody that's talked a whole lot of smack and badmouth SHOT Show that's actually been. So, it's just a matter of getting there, and sometimes you have to step off of that cliff. You have to take that chance. But I've found that the ROI that you get, not only monetarily or whatever else, but with your channel, with your projects, with your whatever it might be, if you go there with the intentions of making it worthwhile, it will become worthwhile. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best as far as epic, um, I would put it at a high 8, maybe a 9. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's up there.
So I think it's an interesting way to answer it. Thanks. I think it's epic because of the scale and the number of people that are included and the accessibility to it. So the barrier to entry is there, but it's definitely a achievable one. It's not that difficult at all. And what it creates then is something that is an industry show that's probably the reason it's gotten to the size it has. But now that it includes military and the manufacturing, like precursors and stuff, it's awesome. It is just cool to be able to see the entire industry, literally to be able to walk around in it. You can walk around and see the inventors, the people who do all the different parts of the different thing. I mean, not everybody from every factory is there, but you get a representative. You can walk, from Smith & Wesson to FN to, you imagine all the stuff you can just, as you're walking, you're experiencing all these different things, and you're getting into see people's interaction with it. So all those people that are walking around that we don't pay attention to are the ones that are the industry. It's the blood of the industry. So you're seeing where it is, where it's what's marketing's working and what people are walking past and what's getting people to giggle or chat or talk, and you can hear the conversations. It's epic in that it's not just NRA members. If you go to NRA show, you're going to go hang out with a whole bunch of NRA members, and that's a whole different show, regardless of the stuff that's there. The people at the NRA show are NRA members, period, and only. Period. That's it. You go to CCW, whatever, USCCA show, similar but smaller, right? Just people who want to go there. So every other show is smaller, but it's also going to be different like that. So SHOT Show has got that mix that's crazy. Then you get the media room at SHOT Show, and that gives the media a chance to peel off and be by themselves and see each other and meet each other. And the being next to each other is the same as is educational and informational. And then we have the media, or the day at the range, whatever they call it now. That is at another level, an opportunity and an insight to the industry, and knowing what you know about guns, you can stand there and just stand at a booth and see how people interact, and you'll know how the rest of the industry is about guns. If you can just, it's a way to gauge the entire industry and see where they're at, who's gaining level and skill and who's not, who's coasting and who's swimming. It's great. And then you put time involved. So the evolution of SHOT Show has been insane. It's been what keeps me interested and invigorated and optimistic, on top of all the ups and downs and exploitations and comes and goes and successes and failures on a personal and larger scale levels. It's an indicator of everything, and it's public and it's there for everybody to see, and it's a leveler because it's there. It's everybody's aware of it, everybody's seeing it, and it's literally this. It's like everybody who's playing the stock market is looking at this information. It's the same information for everybody, and it's open. So it's literally the open. Maybe it's that. It's the open. So it's the code. It's open. It's the code for the open source gun community, which is what it is. So it's completely epic. And I'm not selling it. I'm just saying, like, if you are considering it, take the opportunity. Nothing but opportunity there. All right. So SheFire's next question, I'm highlighting over here on the YouTube side using their new feature. She asks, hello, during the SHOT Show, are we able to walk the main aisles and pan the exhibitor booths without permission, or is it frowned upon? Thinking for B-roll. So I'm assuming she means video. I don't know if he's afraid to take it. Back in the day, you could not do that. It would have been verboten and you would have been kicked out. They would have taken your press pass. They didn't, but they said they were gonna. But they would have, they said.
More are they talking about just shooting aisles?
SheFire's asked, during the show, are you able to walk the main aisle and pan the exhibitor booths without permission, or is it frowned upon? So I don't think she meant exactly the aisles, but I mean, that would be kind of the same thing.
Not the biggest thing that when you go to these shows that you will hear is you don't get a zoom in close up of somebody without their permission type thing. So as far as panning the aisles or panning a booth or something like that, most of that's okay. You're talking about close up, specific video and stuff like that is the biggest thing. Keep in mind that I know she mentioned it for B-roll, and yeah, I think that's great for B-roll. You can do a photo, and then you can make that move in your editing software, or you can do a panning shot with video. However you want to go about doing that. That can be really cool for B-roll. It can be really cool for a show overview. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, I recommend getting some B-roll and some shots like that, and I've never had an issue. I mean, I've set up in corners before and swept, and usually the attendees are getting out of the way. They're like, "Oh, you're filming," and I'm like, "No, just you're fine," because I want them looking at the camera and sidestepping and trying to hide or go around. I want a normal flow of traffic going on right in front of the camera, and sometimes that's a problem rather than people are in the way. It's like I want to show people walking and it being busy, and I've got people stopping in the aisles because they think they're restricting my shot, right, or my video.
Yeah,
And it's
the
like,
key
no,
to
no,
that
go,
is
you're
just
good.
get comfortable with it, do that, and don't be a nuisance. If you're making a big production and putting it on a tripod, and people are, they're going to be obliged. They're going to try to be polite, unless they're European. So that's the other option. Go buy a European group of Europeans.
Well, and at SHOT Show, they're more understanding and all than some of the others. Like the general public can get pretty oblivious to the fact that, hey, you're media and you're trying to do something. So.
Oh, if you go out into the regular world and set up a camera on a tripod, nobody's going to care at all. Like, no one's even going to pay attention. Maybe one person out of 20 or something, or 1% out of 100 will go, what are you doing? But other people just assume you're doing what you're doing. At SHOT Show, back in the day, they'd care more. Now they don't care. But I think I'm going to bring it up over here. Bishop's Ammunition and Firearms, who has exhibited there before, says if you're an exhibitor, no, you cannot without permission. So I'm not sure what they're saying. If the answer to SheFire's question is that you're not supposed to. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen anything like Clover said for sure. You can't go up and just take pictures of anybody, period. Like you can't. You can get it with their permission, I guess, but you don't just go around taking pictures of people at SHOT Show. But as far as like a panning shot of a booth, I wouldn't presume to take a picture of a booth, period, because you don't know if that booth, you don't have any idea what their deal is. And unless you really want to piss people off, I wouldn't take a picture of a booth and post it. They may or may not ever say to you, "Oh, you pissed us off," but you may have cut any tie you'll ever have with them if they're scratching their butt and you posted a picture of it and you didn't realize they're scratching their butt, or the equivalent of they had their banner curled, whatever. Somebody was yelling about something and it's the wrong thing is up when they said, "I want all the pictures with the other thing up." You don't know if you're helping them or hurting them.
So
I would not presume to just take a picture of a booth. Now, if you're taking a picture of an aisle and it's like you're zooming along and booths are in it, it's harder to get concerned about stuff like that if there's little detail. So here's my
panning the
pro
show.
tip.
Yeah.
Here's my pro tip for people that are an hour into it, and specifically for sheet fires, because everybody likes sheet fires. You're a girl, so you've got a pass, as you know. So you can go to any of the booths with 2 floors, pretty much, find the one that has the view you want, and say, "Can I go upstairs?" And they'll go, "For what?" And you'll go, "Because I want to take a video of the place." And they'll go, "Okay." And then go up there and take video from upstairs. And then nobody's going to complain about nothing because it's effectively security camera. Everybody's a little tiny dot. It gets you exactly what you want. In fact, you could own SHOT Show by just taking those.
I was going to say something similar, that this gives you an opportunity. If you're just talking about panning the show, not really going to be problematic. But if you're going to pan a specific booth, are you just panning that booth, or are you also doing other stuff, you know, close-ups of product and other things inside the booth to go with that pan, right? And if that is the case, then this allows you an opportunity to network and communicate with the people in the booth, right? So if there's a specific reason you're doing that specific booth, um, yeah, I mean, pull somebody to the side in the booth, say, "Hey, I want to do I want to do a post and promote. Can I do, can I do a panning shot of your booth?" Right? They're the same way as you would, "Hey, I want to, get some pictures of some different products," or, "Hey, I want to video with you."
Mhm.
And you never know where that's going to lead. You may pull that person to the side, and you may just pull a random person in the booth to the side, because you can do that as far as getting quote unquote permission. Um,
Yeah, they're
but
all going to know. They're all going
what
to
if you pull
understand the deal.
what if you inadvertently pull the CEO of the company aside, right? And he's like, "Oh," or she is like, "Oh, you're doing media, huh? Hey, well, why don't you come back tomorrow and we'll sit down and do an actual interview?" And then the next thing you know, you got this amazing contact, and all you did was real quickly pull somebody to the side and say, "Hey, I'd like to do a panning shot of this booth. What do you think?" That's simple.
Yep, definitely. And that's the way to do it. Because once you start asking first, what you'll find is they'll go, "Oh, hold on." And then 3 people will run away. They'll move their lunch. They move a bag out of the way. They move a
That's
poster
true.
over
Yeah.
so it does. They'll
Yeah.
have a smart booth owner has prices on one side of your poster, and then instead of paying for a blank poster on the other side, you have another side for media that doesn't have prices on it. So they don't get into the Altor thing where he's like, "Oh, I don't care," and I'm like, "Are you sure?" "I don't care." And he puts all his wholesale prices all over everything, and now he's got the Altor reputation. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that's if you want to take a look at actual booth successes and failures, especially if you're a Second Amendment advocate and you're thinking about having a booth there, let's talk about what works and what doesn't, especially in 2022. But that was one of those things that he should have thought twice about. But you can have marketing for both, and you can say, "Oh, you want to take a picture? I'd rather you take the picture. Hold on, click, click. Flip your boards over or whatever you're going to do. Take all the pictures you want." And then when somebody comes along, you flip your thing over and start talking prices with them again. But yeah, once you start asking people it's permission, you'll start seeing why. There's a million reasons why you could cement a bad relationship as easily as you can foster or find a new one by doing something, assuming something at SHOT Show or
Well,
assuming
then
something.
we're talking, and I know that the bishops are out there and explaining some different things from the um, industry side, and She Fires is media. I mean, with these shows, we're predominantly talking about the capacity of media, so we're there to take pictures and video.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind if you're
Oh
going
no, they're
as a
probably just clarifying that. They're
if you're
clarifying that
going
as
as
a
a
booth owner, that they're not allowed to just go around taking
right.
pictures.
Yeah, that's true. Unless you're media tied to that booth, which is a thing, right?
Yeah, not
Yeah,
really.
that is a thing. Or and exhibitors. If you're just a gun shop going, for example, or something like that. Yeah,
You shouldn't be
it's
taking pictures. The only people
right.
taking pictures are media. No, nobody's
Supposed to
gonna.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody jumps on anybody. But I'll tell you what, you take a picture of something wrong and post it, and whenever lawyers get involved, yeah, just saying. Just because you can doesn't mean you should have, and doesn't mean that it's legal.
Yeah, or you don't get to go back ever again.
No,
That
that's
would
true
be
too. We do know
horrible.
people. I don't know if you know. I know people that have gotten kicked out of SHOT Show's media because they can't go back anymore. All right, so DJ asked next, does the community embrace attendees in any appreciable way, i.e. proclamation, chamber of commerce, etc.? So you mean Vegas, the attendees of the fifth largest show in Vegas? I mean, by the way that they have like police, I mean, how many police are out front? Dozens of police cars. It must be 100 officers, if it's any. Um, with the taxes that the fifth largest thing in Vegas brings in. And it's not like it's a convention of teachers. It's not like it's a convention of people who sit in a hotel room at the end of the night. It's a convention of people that sprawl to every nightclub. Everything's booked. I got to assume the Chamber of Commerce is grinning ear to ear when we come back to Vegas. We've been in Vegas for 12 years, and we used to be a traveling show. I'm pretty sure they're making it. They're happy that we're there, and they're making it worth our while, whatever that's called. I don't think anybody says we're going to Vegas in spite of the horrible conditions, except for maybe for 2 years there when everything got crazy.
Yeah.
I was one of the people that said, yeah, then move it to Texas. Give Vegas a chance to realize what it's like to not have the fifth largest show.
Right.
I don't know if it's the fifth largest show anymore. I just have heard that, and it was that for a few years now, so I just assume it's around that fifth largest show-ish range. So then the next one is from Ghost, and he's saying, or asking, how important is taking a laptop and getting videos out that day? That's a good question. That's audience in 2022, because that's a different thing. And as Clover's saying this, thing is, Clover, you said that same advice now for a couple of years. Not just any particular piece of advice, but you've had the similar advice now for a couple of years. So
yeah.
This is 2022. We had an insane 2022 at SHOT Show with very little attendance, very high morale, and enthusiasm that can't be, it's priceless. Like there's no way to chart that. Then there was the level of butthurts and soreness, sore sallies, is that a thing? Of all the like sour grapes or whatever for people that didn't go, both in the industry and media and people that just didn't, the coverage and stuff. So what you also had is a disruption. There has been a couple of lines that I'm aware of, and that's something like going from digital to video and from video to streaming. There's things from going from YouTubers having to fight our way to be media, to being established as media, to being the battleships of media, to then being, I think we're back to being PT boats maybe, but it's hard to say. I guess it depends. There's different levels of people, it's weird. So anyway, there's different ways that things have kind of threaded or gone along at SHOT. And as far as getting stuff out fast with the new viewers, so new gun owners means new viewers. New viewers is either going to the established channels or to new channels. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think they probably make that division. They're either find a new owner and going to giant channels and finding their home there and liking to just sit in a giant audience and listen, or they find small channels and they are part of smaller conversations and, actually part of smaller communities, I should say, and not, being active in a smaller community as opposed to just participating or watching a large community. But I think most people fall into that or some kind of ratio of that. There's probably some people that decide to create content too. That's where we're talking to them too. But what we're talking about, to answer Ghost's question, is how important is getting the stuff out there immediately. The question is, are the new viewers anticipating it? Are the new viewers aware that that's an option? Are the new viewers going to appreciate it? I'll leave it with those three. I won't ghost you too hard. So I just extracted it all down to Ghost's question here. How important is a laptop in that? My question would be, my only way to answer that is with questions. And those are, how important is it to the viewers and all that?
I think it depends. I think it depends on the theme of your channel. It depends on your goals. There's a lot of things that go into that. I would say in 2022, with YouTube Shorts being hot, with Instagram Reels and all the other ways to do quick vertical video that isn't highly edited anyway, and you can literally do 2 or 3 of those, and I can go on a smoke break and post those while I'm, enjoying a pipe out in the beer garden. That there is room for posting videos and content while they might not be long form, 4, 5, 8, 10-minute long booth reviews. I think there is definitely more room now than in previous years. You talk about me having the same stance, and my stance is based on my goals, my projects, and what I want to do, what I want to accomplish, and where I want to go. That being said, I fully intend on, utilizing those new, and I guess they not necessarily new. I mean, this stuff was around, in back in 2022, back in January. But I do plan on employing those a little bit more. I'm not the type that I'm going to, because I am so excited and I enjoy the entire experience, that there's no room for me to sit down and edit B-roll and build graphics and do other things. And you could say, well, what if you just completely change the format of how you do your videos? Well, the problem with doing that is, are you looking to have, or you're looking for things to be more consistent with your channel, right? If you've always had that very low key style video where it's just, I'm just throwing up some footage, and there's really no editing behind it, hardly at all, maybe an intro or an outro type thing, and that's it, maybe a few chops here and there, then okay, great. But if you're doing content that's a little more polished, it's a little more structured, it takes me a long time. And this also goes into it is, do you enjoy? Because I hate editing and stuff anyway. And how long does it take you to do that? So one of the reasons I don't like necessarily editing and stuff on videos is I'm overly critical and like, okay, I got to do this. Oh, I need to build a graphic to go over this. Oh, I need to do that. And so I'm leaving the show floor. I've got my footage or whatever. I'm going back to the hotel or Airbnb, and everybody's going out to hang out. They're going to this after event. They're going to this, and I'm going to sit there and edit. And if I'm going to try to do that after I get back from those after events or whatever, well, I've just delayed that time even further. And then on top of delaying that time even further, that cuts into the sleep, which you get very little of, or at least I do, during SHOT Show week. So, it's finding that happy balance. And I think some of those quick fire, quick shot, I don't know what you want to call them, short format,
Shorts.
videos, yeah, is going to be, it's good. It's definitely going to play a role in at least teasing people to what's upcoming. Like if I have a company that says, "Hey, we want you to do a booth review," and I've already had a few that's asked me that, and I'm like, "Yeah, but you realize until I get back from SHOT Show, that's not going to release." I'm like, "I will do a little something, and we can do a short or something that I can release during that." Right? They've also asked. I've had a couple wanting to go live, and I'm like, yeah, it's going to be hard to do. Like if we get in a corner somewhere where we're just talking and we're not handling any firearms or anything, maybe we can do it on Instagram instead. There's ways to manage that, but yeah, there's a lot of different, I guess, a lot of moving parts and pieces to that, and it all comes down to that person and their goal and what their schedule and everything looks like. And so if you plan on, well, I'm gonna, go and I'm gonna shoot video and I'm gonna edit, 2 or 3 hours. Well, good luck with that, because I can't edit one video in that, when you're talking about a 5 to 8 minute video in that kind of time frame, building a thumbnail and everything else, then that's eat up my experience. I've not remained fluid, which is one of the things we constantly talked about. It's like I've dedicated myself to doing that. And if you dedicate yourself to doing that, you're not staying fluid.
Yeah, I hear you. You don't have to, I hear you, but you don't have to be fluid like a monk with just a robe on and a stick. You can be fluid as an operator with a piece of equipment dedicated to own the night and to take care of business so that you never have to worry about casualties. So you can be fluid in different ways. So prep, you talked about thumbnails. You're going to be anticipating your trip to SHOT. You could be prepping all your things. You're going to be going to these booths. There's nothing stopping you from making your thumbnails today or in the oncoming weeks coming up to SHOT Show as you're preparing for it. Editing videos, I have templates. I start with a template and I just insert my raw video, chop it down, adjust my audio, and then my intros and outros are there. I do that normally. So for me, I don't know if that's something you normally do, but consider learning about templates. There's things you can do there. But Clover's things is pretty much all central, one person doing it. There's teamwork. People up and coming, there's a lot of team stuff happening. There's a lot of collaborative stuff. There's people that aren't going to be in Vegas that can still be part of SHOT Show coverage in a big way. And I'll tell you again, free tip for anybody that's listening this far in. If you're a Second Amendment advocate, keep in mind, this is the tip of the iceberg. I can give you so much more if you're a Second Amendment advocate. But you don't have to have everybody on your team there. You can have people where you drop the video onto, name your choice of cloud, and now the video is on the cloud. Make a couple of notes, have a conference call or a thing on your Uber on your way to your event. Have the best of both worlds. Prep for your success. Like, create your opportunities at SHOT. There's people that are able and willing to help out, and you don't all have to be at SHOT Show. But we'll go back to how important is it. I think there's also, like Clover said, it depends on what your goals are, what you're trying to do with your stuff, because you can do what other people have done, and you can do something different. And I don't know how many people are going to look at SHOT Show and the tech and the opportunities and the time that we have today and say, let's edit videos a lot. You know what I mean? Like, for all the reasons Clover just said. So I'm not saying it is a good thing or a bad thing, but just to put the devil's advocate on there, what would happen if would they stand alone and be separate if they had well-produced 20-minute videos about the one thing everybody cared about at SHOT Show? Would that be the most viral thing because everything else would be 3 minutes long? Hey, wait till I can have time to get home and edit the rest of this. And you'd be the only one with the well-edited video? I don't know in 2022, but that's the way to think outside the box. Think about more than just the other ways people have done it before. SHOT Show got disrupted last year. I don't know what the answers to all that is, but I'm throwing that out there as a potential. I'm still in the questions. Go ahead.
If you've got a team, if it was even 2 people, right? You could alternate, and somebody could bring footage. You bring footage back, and you edit your footage in the media room because you've got plugs, you've got internet access, you've got everything you need there. You have your laptop. You edit the footage, you upload while the other person is down on the floor, right? And just swap back and forth, doing that. And I could see how you could get some content out from the show and accomplish some stuff. By yourself, it's like I said, short form is going to be.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with what you
go.
said. I'm just saying that you don't have to do it alone, but I would still do what you're saying. You got to get fluent with shorts, unless you don't care about how things are actually consumed in 2022. But you got to get fluent with shorts. You could be putting up stuff on Tuesday that's edited and shorted up on Monday, or you know how it works, whatever. So put the stuff up on Monday, I guess, at range day, and then, or at the end of range day, and then Tuesday, every time you sit down, shorts out of that. Right? There's strategies you could do. Just take whatever you do, hold your phone the other way for 2 seconds at the end, and make a preview. That might be an interesting way to sort your videos. We haven't even talked about the idea of Go out and take a bunch of videos. If you haven't already, go out and take a bunch of videos. Get experience having a lot of videos on your phone, large, small, large, small. Get experience with labeling them. Go out there and use your video on your phone or whatever it is you're using, your video camera. Use it, use it, use it, use it, use it, use it. Go home and imagine now you're under the clock. You got to get somewhere. You want to go eat. You want to meet with somebody. You got to get that stuff off the phone or off the camera, so that it's safe. Make 3 backups, and then go do something, go eat or whatever, come back, try editing a video or something, try doing something with that. Practice. Don't be the first time you experience this stuff while you're in Vegas experiencing all this stuff. You know, have the stuff that you can prepare for out of the way already. And it's easy. What do? You make a couple of videos. Make videos about your bags. I'm going to go, you know, the same way we're saying prep your shoes, load up a bag, go to the zoo, go to the local animal shelter, take a bunch of videos of some critters. It's going to be noisy. It's going to be annoying. Everybody will appreciate it. You'll have videos that make views. That, you know what I'm saying? Get used to doing stuff. Get used to putting the cameras up and putting them away. You know, if you're going to go over there 6 feet away, put your cameras away. Take them back out again. It's practice. It's the difference between going to the range and marksmanship and drawing and shooting, right? I'm going to go back to the questions that are coming in. So the question is from She Fires. This is so weird for me because I'm using the new YouTube feature. I'm used to having it pop up on the screen, and I would be doing that. But when they go into the questions area of YouTube, they specifically don't go out to the feed for me to put up on StreamYard. So now I'm thinking that's another notch in that they're doing this to double cross StreamYard from being able to put it on the screen. Right? Because they're removing it from StreamYard's inventory.
Let's be honest with it, the live experience on YouTube, and that's one of the reasons that, you know, they had the Google Hangouts, and then, you know, StreamYard becomes so dominant once that fell apart. Is the live experience, the native live experience on YouTube has been ignored for a long time. And so they're just now playing catch up. And a lot of creators, it's like we get pigeonholed into just looking at and focusing on, you know, our world and our little circles. But when you look at the vast amount of creators on YouTube, the overwhelming majority still use the goofy, stupid YouTube app or YouTube software to live stream. And so, yeah, I mean, they're just trying to up that game and make that better. I don't think it's a direct plug at StreamYard, but
No,
I think
but
they are taking cues from StreamYard.
And they don't care that it does that, has that effect at StreamYard. But that's why I'm not bringing them up on the screen, because I am frustrated, because I do like the feature of StreamYard. I pay money for this to be able to bring it up on the screen. So it's weird because I'm having to look at a different screen and it's not showing up. But She Fires asked the question, what's a good way to engage with select companies at SHOT Show that we'd like to collaborate with or pursue sponsored opportunities? Do they have a minimum subscriber number? Well, you know, each one's going to be separate, of course, but they're having a discussion out there about subscriber number. I'm going to suggest, though, that we just maybe answer the question, but have a whole show about relationship building and blah, 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 because that's a whole other thing. And this isn't quite gear, but it's also like an hour in. But that's a great question. And I mean, to sum it up, each company's different, and it depends on what you're trying to do. If you'd like to have a coupon code with them, and when someone purchases, you get a cut, that's a lot different than saying, hey, can I have one of every item in your product line and $1,000? Right. So
or even just one item, period. Right. Like,
well, then everything in between.
Thing.
Yeah.
You know, some of them get a credit card and it's on loan to you. You know, some of them.
One year we had a challenge when I was bringing a bunch of people just to, you know, play around, do different things. We had a challenge like who's going to get the most stuff today. This was back in 2009, I think, in Florida. And so I was a little bit more aggressive than I would have been. And I went in the first booth I went up to was a flashlight booth. And I spoke, blah, blah, blah. Can I take a quick video? And I was like literally some of the first people in the door. So they're like, all right off the bat, sure. Took a video or whatever. And it was like a moment because it was a small, little, inexpensive flashlight. And I go, hey, can I grab one for reviews? And they're like, yeah, here, grab one. And 2. And I was like, all right, great. But at the same time, I was like, right, confidence builder, whatever. All they didn't even ask who I was. I took video and I walked away. I don't think they see my badge, but I also had to carry around a flashlight for the rest of the day. Luckily, it wasn't a giant flashlight, but
Right.
you know, there's pluses and minuses to everything. But yeah, sometimes they could care less. I guess it depends on the cost of the item for sure. And then I've had little tiny $5 things where they want to know my way more info than it's worth spending time there to try to promote a $5 thing.
Right.
I would say think about your channel too. And throw this out there. We'll talk about this again, but think about how you want your channel to be and who you want to be working with instead of just who will work with you or who you can work with.
What fits? Yeah.
Yeah. What goes in the direction you want to go to. So I'm still in questions, and I think, let's see, this is still, yeah, G23 is asking, excuse me, is trying to be the first media person to release a product video important? I think that's really similar to the question that Ghost asked about taking the laptop. It just depends on what you think. It's sort of a gamble. It's sort of a, you know, you go to the horse race and you looked at the horses and you know their reputation and who likes to run in the rain and that kind of thing. What do you think this year? Trying to be first? It's kind of a thing like if there's a lot of interest in products and if the people are interested, are they interested in something else this year or are they interested in something?
I see this as I'm going to call it a myth, right? That if I'm the first in, it's amazing. And Ghost will back me up out there on this because we were the first in on something in 22, and that absolutely has not panned out. Why did it not pan out? It's because even though we were the first in on that, the company themselves did not hype it enough. There just wasn't enough interest, period. So it's going to depend on what it is. Now, if you're talking about a big company that does hype their stuff, odds are they've already sent samples prior to SHOT Show. They've already sent samples to, and unless you're a creator that's been around a while, you don't understand this. They've already sent samples to creators, to writers, to media, and asked that they don't release any video until SHOT Show week, right? Or maybe the week before or something like that. And so while you may go into SHOT Show, I'm going to be the first to get a video of this amazing thing. And, first day of SHOT Show, whatever, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, you're in the booth and you are legitimately the first person at SHOT Show to film that. You run up to the media, you upload it, only to find out that an hour earlier while you were down there filming, 6 videos dropped on that. So I think you can get hung up on the idea of being the first. And there's a lot of factors that go into whether or not that matters. At the end of the day, I have had great success by not being the first. Why? Because search traffic is built up by some of the bigger channels getting that first, and I ride the coattails, so to speak. My Gerson content is that way. So I rode Such's coattails for a very long time on the Gerson Regard. I wasn't the first to drop that out, and I don't know that he was the first, right? But I know he was the first that was really dominant with it. And now my channel's pretty dominant with Gerson stuff, right? So it's a malleable thing, right? There's a lot of moving parts and pieces, and there's actually something to be said about, there is strategy and tactic to not being the first. That can actually be beneficial as well.
So then you might have some awareness or you might get a lead from somebody or whatever the way is that you get it. But being the first person to address a product for that person is a whole nother thing. So if a company's got a new product or a company is new or it's their first time with a booth or something like that, and you're, appreciating that they're there and you're helping them out.
Oh,
it doesn't matter if everybody's upstairs looking at the Colt this and that or the Smith & Wesson whatever's next.
right.
If you're down there helping the people, being the first for the people that appreciate who the first person is and will remember always the first person, then that doesn't have anything to do with subs. That doesn't have anything to do with anything else. And that's one of those things that SHOT Show is, again, it's an opportunity for.
I got to do it's a pretty cool experience. And I think that's kind of where you're going with that, G. I got to do that in I don't remember what year, 17 or 18, or I don't even remember, but I got to do a live from a booth, and it was the very first time that anything, no riders, no samples, no nothing, had been done on that product. Um, and just the experience of being able to do that, not just from my experience, but then the company allowing me to do that, and the how that affected the relationship, which hopefully you're right, that's another show in and of itself. It was just an awesome experience. So there can be that aspect of things where no, okay, it doesn't blow your channel up, that video doesn't necessarily blow up, but it's something cool to have in the mix. I mean, you can always say, I was the first to do this, or I was the first to talk about this, or the first to have this video, and that company actually backs you up on it and go, yeah, because we strategically wanted you to do it. So there's no arguments over it. It's pretty neat.
Then Weston saying, as a content consumer, I enjoy seeing the first videos of a product as soon as possible the week of shot. But I'm going to watch any videos from the channels he follows, no matter when it's released. And that's the thing, is that when you're going there, you're doing it with your experience and your perspective and your audience. And if they're watching your videos, it's because they care about all the above, right? So anybody can pick it up and listen to, I don't know, somebody who can shoot a gun fast, or somebody who has been there before or done something once a time, and somebody who built something, or somebody that whatever, right? Those people's opinions on stuff is interesting, but it has nothing to do with the new gun owner or the collector or the competition shooter. You know what I'm saying? The
Valid
extremes
point,
that, so getting there and being that interest. So you can be a cowboy shooter, and you can be walking around and tell people, this is what I like about this and that and the other thing. Because guess what? As a cowboy shooter, you probably still conceal carry. As a cowboy shooter, you probably still go hunting, right? And if you can go up and tell somebody that this is the hunting rifle that, reminds me of blah, blah, blah more than the other ones, then you provided a service. Well, that's
a valid point. I like that, and I know that to be true, but I never really thought about it. But yeah, I mean, I've always said that when you put out content, your content is from your perspective. All your experiences are revolved in that, and there's certain people that's going to benefit more than others. They may watch 10 videos on a product, but those people don't address the issues or the problems or the features or whatever it might be, right? That you pick up on and key into, right? You're more in tune, or they're more in tune with you, or you're more in tune with them, right? One way or the other. And so that's why you have to value your voice. And that's another reason why, being the first is not necessarily mission critical.
So look at this. I just discovered this. This is a little round magnet, right? It's kind of like an airsoft BB size, just a magnet though. And this is just a piece of rock countertop that I'm using is underneath of my computer. So it's like a heat sink under my computer. Did you know that rock is magnetic? Did you see that? There's like all these little iron chunks of it, I guess. And this thing just bounces to one of the iron chunks. Okay, could this thing wait more? So this thing will just go to a little iron chunk and stop. I've never noticed that before.
That could be a really cool way if you could find a way to integrate a magnet into some dice. You could cheat.
Oh, snap.
Rolling dice,
don't ever trust anybody to roll dice on this stuff. You're right. Seriously, because I'm thinking this is rock. Why would you think that this is magnetic? It's literally marble or something.
Right.
Crazy.
You could like ruin people at Monopoly or something.
Seriously. Anyway, you could really, I would freak me out. I thought there was a ghost in here. Is it like was moving and it's just moving randomly.
Yeah, it's little chunks of something is magnetic.
Wow.
And they may have some magnetic particles in there as binder or something. You never know. G-Web's turned his camera off. Crazy.
There we go. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm clicking the wrong button, I guess. Okay. So sorry, I got fascinated that my rock cabinet is magnetic. So now the next question is from G23 asking also his last question. He's asking this one. How many bags of swag should a newbie aim for? I'm going to say none. First off, you don't want to carry stuff That's a rookie mistake, is carrying a bunch of stuff. Maybe on the last day, go for some stuff. I think really if you go to SHOT and your first experiences of SHOT are what you horked, I don't know. I mean, I guess you're experiencing it, but in order to hork, and I can tell you, I mean, I've gone and horked.
Yeah, you have.
You got to not be doing a lot of other stuff. You can be doing other stuff if you know what you're doing and you know where to grab stuff. But if you went to seek it out, there's no way you could have grabbed all the stuff I grabbed, because I know where to seek it out after 18 years. I know where to go. I didn't stand in line for 2 patches. I know where to go ask for stuff, or where they're just going to be sitting there. You'd have to seek all that stuff out as a new person. If you're seeking out swag, consider it like extra Halloween candy along the way. Like, if you find something, great, score, but don't be looking for it. Honestly, you're going to be, what is that? That's looking for you're missing the orchard for the rotten apple you're going to find on the ground. Like, if you keep kicking the ground looking for apples, you're going to walk past all the ones that are perfect on the tree. That's the way you say it. So you're going to, and I don't mean all the patches. I just mean the relationships, understanding the scale of the industry, seeing how the other content creators do their job, seeing how everybody interacts with each other, getting a finger on the pulse. I don't know other way to say it. You can, Clover, you've seen it over the years now. There's years when it's like old man blood coursing through the system, kinda, and then there's years where it's all jazzed up, and then there was like last year where it was like just like a well-oiled runner and everything was just pumping. Like there's like a different flow each year, and you're not going to understand that if you're looking for stuff for free. And you can get literally anything you want that you get at SHOT Show is a email away. Can you send me some of your patches? Yeah, they'll send you patches. That's why they make them, and that's why they give them away. So I would say really zero. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just saying really, like, I would not waste your effort on it as a newbie. There's so many other things you could get from SHOT.
It depends on what you're trying to do. So I like patches just as much as the next guy. If I put all mine on a panel, I'd have a whole wall's worth probably. But are you getting them for, giveaways and things like that? Are you talking about swag for like your own collection? I don't go. Yes, I can supplement my own collection with what I pick up, but I don't make a point of picking up for that reason. And so because that's the case, I'm able to pick up way more than I need to get me from year to year as far as giveaways and other things. Just by picking up at booths I walk into or I walk by, right? It's not like I'm walking the floor with a specific intent of gathering up swag. And I'm still able to get a ton of stuff. So a ton of stuff in relationship to what I give away, right? If you're looking to get the most swag ever, or some crazy something, then I mean that's a goal outside of the whole idea of being a creator. Like, I'm not there for that. So yeah.
All right, all those were questions on the QA. I ended it, and if anybody wants to let me know what they think about that QA thing. I kind of don't like it. I mean, it's neat. If I had nothing else to use it, I would use it because it lets you highlight a question, sort of like when you pin a comment to the top of your text thing, or you make a poll, it just turns it blue and puts it to the top of the text, except it kind of stacks them. Kind of like a super chat, I guess. But so it's just a thing that the YouTube live people are seeing. I'm not even sure it gets displayed in the replay, which is super frustrating. The StreamYard advantage of the StreamYard is when we click on something like putting Andrew's comment up here, get one of them wheelie bags like the old ones, and then that shows up on the actual video on the screen because of StreamYard uses an interface with YouTube and then uses that interface to display this. And they even give us some ways that we can adjust the display and make it different sizes and colors and stuff. And YouTube is only, I think, intentionally using the text side of it and not displaying anything on the screen. I mean, they can. The watermark comes from YouTube. There's a watermark down on the bottom right that comes from YouTube. So they have the ability to add stuff to the screen. All right, so we definitely got off of gear and got it a little bit more into strategy and tactics a bit. but that's the goal of the show, is to answer questions about SHOT Show. Was there anything that they didn't want you to know that we revealed today, Clover?
Yeah, I don't know.
Feel free to come up with one. I'm going to refer back to, you can go to the places that have upper stair, like second floors. You can go to the places that brought their own upper
True.
deck or whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it, and go, hey,
Yeah.
can I go up there and take a video? And I mean, unless you're a jerk or something, they're going to be like, all right. And then you go up there. I mean, like, they might be doing something up there. If they're doing something up there, don't expect them to stop doing whatever they're doing. But most of the time, that's for special reasons or for special purposes, and they don't care if you go up there. And you got any other things that they don't want you to know?
I can't think of anything. I really can't.
Okay, I might have been missing some questions in the outside chat. I know I got one here from Ghost. I was going to star, but if I missed anything, feel free to re-ask it. We're right around 90 minutes, so we're not going to go too much longer, but we'll answer whatever
Right.
questions we can, especially if it's gear related. And then again, especially if we've hit something, and this will happen, especially on a conversation like this one, if we've hit something like a tangent and then pulled back and went a different way, feel free to leave a comment afterwards or send us an email or contact us some way and let us know. And we can, I've got some notes that are kind of running from these shows. We can add them to those notes and attempt to hit them in a future show or even make a whole show about it. We've still got some time. So Ghost is asking, gear all depends on how you are covering shot. A printed media person will have a different setup than a YouTuber. Everybody needs a camera, phone, a notepad, and business cards. Okay, so getting back to the gear stuff, kind of wrapping it up. Hopefully somebody's killing the bots out there. I think over on the, do I have this on both channels? Anybody out watching on the Daily Gun Show channel? Looks like we're getting bots over there. Thanks. So, getting back to the gear side, then Clover kind of already talked about phone, and we'll have another show about it. But definitely, there's some things to keep in mind as far as gear, and I'm gonna put a show together, and we'll actually put some descriptions in with some structure, so that we don't have to try to wing it, because I don't want to miss anything, and that's what's going to happen if we just try to wing it. But yeah, there are some things that are probably necessities and things that will burden you, like be a waste of time. And we'll try to cover both of those kind of things. But maybe just to wrap up gear, I'm going to ask Clover, if he's not too distracted from killing robots, if you had to describe to some extent, not super quickly, but, if in some kind of a summary of your experience with gear over the years. You started going in what, 18 or 17?
Something
18?
like that. Yeah, I don't remember.
So I would say you went from some kind of goofy phone elaborate thing where all your stuff was based off of a phone, I think. And then it was maybe a phone with a GoPro or something. You had like some kind of a setup, but it was pretty effective in the museums. I don't know how well it worked for you at shop, but you didn't keep it very long. But it seemed like a lot of pieces. And then I don't think you went to the large cameras, but some guys went to the large cameras, like what I would call an SLR or whatever, the digital version of that.
Right.
And then with a bunch of stuff hanging off of it. But then you just went to phones, I think. And then now you've been doing phones. But how has your gear been? Because mine's longer. I don't want to try to do mine. Mine's been really long and cheap. Mine's not really indicative of the way most people do it.
So I liked I really liked the setup. I predominantly used phones the entire time. I really liked the setup with the gimbal and the monopod, because that gave me the ability to be able to hold that, and you can you've got to hold it is the only problem. So you've got one hand that's not going to be free. But if you've got somebody else there that can hold the product, it's not such a big deal. And you can only get so far back, arm's length, if you're holding that. So it come with its drawbacks, but it really did, smooth video, smooth scrolls, smooth pans and stuff like that. So I really liked that, but it was a situation where the gimbal had to be charged, So you had a limitation with that because it was battery powered. There was also some limitations that ended up happening as I progressed with phones with that, where um, I ended up having to actually buy a counterweight set for that thing because the phone I was using was too large. And then one of the other drawbacks with that is that the way that the phone mounted into that particular gimbal, anyway, it closed off the audio and the charging ports and everything. So um, you were limited as to being able to take audio. Now you can't do audio straight from that through that phone. You'd have to record audio through another source, which a lot of people do. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, that's added things that you've got to worry about batteries and charging and then you've got the potential of a wire going bad, or you're right. There was a lot of parts and pieces and stuff to that. So now it's basically boiled down to a couple of different microphones that for me offer a couple of different advantages depending on the venue and the recording situation. Um, a couple of phones, very similar in the cameras and everything, and then um, a tripod as needed type situation. So um, yeah, just simplified. The whole big camera thing never been a thing for me. I like being more portable, light and portable and flexible. And a big high dollar camera, you got to carry that around. What happens if it gets stolen? What happens if you drop it? There's just so many things. It's much easier to have an extra phone. A lot more difficult to have an extra $800, $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 camera, right? Um, so, and maybe one day, maybe. I mean, if the channel's making thousands and thousands of dollars a month, okay, cool. Maybe I switch over and evolve into something like that. But yeah, for right now, being lightweight and portable and quick and everything, and not having to tote around a whole lot of gear, just works for what I'm doing.
Then additionally, we can probably talk about some of the podcast stuff because that's a thing, and there's audio recorders and mixers and stuff that are, I don't know, so worth talking about, I think. All right. Well, we're going on the 2 hour mark, so our goal is just to go an hour with these shows. This one was a bunch of questions coming in with the YouTube question thing, and probably rambled a bit. But give us some feedback. Appreciate the people that join us live, giving us feedback as we go along. But if you're listening in the future, let us know. If there's, like, say, a direction we can go in or something we skirted. Clover, what have you got coming up with your
I've
channel?
got Trailblazer Firearms on the podcast tomorrow. MTM Case Guard on
Isn't
Thursday.
Trailblazer the company that sponsored your series of interviews with Second Amendment advocates and industry people?
Trailblazer is the sole sponsor this go around this season of the podcast. Yeah. So I was happy to be able to work them in before the end of the season because actually this is it. We go to Tulsa and probably won't be another podcast season until after SHOT Show. So I've got other things I need to focus on. I've tried to break the podcast seasons up like that, but um, yeah, was happy to get them in and kind of talk about the direction they're going and what they're doing since they were so generous as to buy into that sponsorship. What else is there? Um, there's the obviously Tulsa coming up. So be looking for, I think, Chris from the 740. I think he was out there, but I think he's got a follow up debrief live stream planned next week for when we get back from Tulsa to kind of talk about that. A lot of folks going for the first time. Will not be my first time, but um, yeah, there'll definitely be some content coming out of that. I've already hit up my ammunition collector buddy. So he's supposed to be getting a couple cool things set aside for us to talk about there, and who knows what else we'll run into with that show. So that content obviously will sometime next week or so. There'll be shorts coming out of that this weekend. There'll be Instagram pictures coming out of that this weekend. Community tab pictures coming out of that this weekend. So keep tabs on the channel if you want to kind of get a feel for what's going on at the largest gun show in the world. And then the next, I guess, is the stickers, the Ghost and Clover stickers. We'll throw those out there. CloverTac.com/shot 2023. I don't know how many we've sold. I think there's maybe 50 or 60% of those left, limited to 200. Check out that link. Every one of those gets you into a sweepstakes entry for a $1,600 plus winner take all prize package that pretty much has everything from the handgun to the ammo to the range bag to everything, Ioneer Pro, and everything in between you need to enjoy that firearm, go to the range with that firearm, train with that firearm, etc. So
And
check
that's
that
the way
stuff
that
out.
you guys are getting to SHOT Show is by offering
Well,
stickers for sale. And then when people buy them, hold on, I'm trying to get my screen share. I'm clicking the wrong buttons. When people are grabbing these stickers, they're getting a sticker or whatever, and then it's also an entry into whatever you're calling it. And then the at some point you're going to draw, and they're going to get this $1,600 worth of stuff. So there's a reason why people might just want to do it for the incentive, but they're also crowdfunding trips. So that'll end up with a pile of cash because these are folks that are helping out with this. You're not purchasing all this stuff and then reselling it or something. These people are helping you out. And that's a way that by having some relationships and working with people, they're able to offer something for free. You're able to offer a sticker. And then if somebody wins, they get that free stuff. And then you guys help offset your trip. So if somebody's thinking like, oh, I'd like to go to SHOT Show, but there's just no way I can do it. You've done this in the past and it's been successful. I think
mhm.
a couple of people we know have done these kind of things in the past. There's lots of things besides stickers that are available also. If you've got something that you're into or something that you're able to create or something somebody is able to help with.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to make a point of that it's a cool way to accomplish getting there when, like you say, you're not necessarily independently wealthy and doing this as a
Well,
luxury.
right. Yeah, you're right. You mentioned offset, and that's true. Keep in mind, this is an offset. This doesn't cover everything, for sure. But the couple of things I would say about that is number one, I didn't mention, but the stickers obviously limited 200, signed and hand numbered. So not really a way that anybody could pirate those or anything else. So I mean, you literally got a one of 200. Or multiples if you decide to go that route. If you do go multiples, keep in mind you get an extra entry for every 5 stickers. So, but one of the other things is just working with the companies, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that. So it's a $1,600 prize package. Could those companies have just given us $1,600 to help get the SHOT Show? Like they could have done that, right? We could have went that route. But doing something like this, it gets promotion for those companies. Allows us a project to work with. It allows the audience out there to interact, and things of that nature. And more importantly, I think with this setup, somebody out there is going to get a literal truckload of really cool stuff. So,
Yeah.
it's
And
just
they're probably
another
going to do
dynamic.
some video about it. They're probably going to talk about it. It's not like they're throwing it into a
Yeah.
drawer and it's never going to get looked at again.
Yeah, so it's just another way. I mean, there's certainly ways to fundraise, to raise money, to get, to help offset the cost of making trips and doing things. This is one of those ways that it literally involves everybody, right? It involves the community, it involves the creators, and it involves the industry. It's like everybody is all melded into one, and it's to me, it's just a really fun way to do things.
Fairly low, what's the word? Like nobody has to put a bunch of low level of participation too. Like nobody's breaking the bank on this. Even the person who's donating the most expensive item, and it's not a giant project. So it's something that, again, if
Yeah.
somebody's thinking about, you could take out the two most expensive things and start making some phone calls. And
Well,
most likely somebody nearby's got stickers. Allen Anchor makes stickers. You can find somebody online to get some. Well, it's a little late for patches, but maybe magnets or pins or something. Whatever it is that's your deal that you like, or that you
well,
think that people that are participating might like, and you could work something out. Go ahead.
well,
Maybe a gun
yeah,
shop or something.
and you gotta keep in mind that you know the the cost of the stickers, of the stamps, of the envelopes, of the, all of the different things that go into the fees, obviously, that, the different payment places take out. By the time you subtract all of that, or by the time you add all of the incidental stuff up, right? Um, we've got more in that than the most expensive item on the list, right? So it literally costs more to facilitate this than any of the individual items on the list, which is it's crazy to think, but it's worth it in the end. It's fun.
I just was thanking Chris and She Fires for dropping super chats, $20. Thank you. And I was just letting them know that on Fridays when we do the weekly show, we do the thank yous to everybody who super chatted throughout the month. So for the next 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever, you're in the running for this thank yous that we send out. Oh, we got the printer running, so we're going to be printing some more stuff as I can sneak time away. I'm getting or I guess I should say I got my old software running again. So I got to get my cobwebs off or whatever they call it, and learn how to run it again, and then I'll get the printers fired up. Got a
Ghost
couple of
made
ideas
a.
for new things. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Ghost made a good point out there that yeah, this doesn't require. Some things require you to like this and like that and subscribe here. All you got to do is go pick up a cool sticker. That's it. A cool limited edition sticker. You're done. So that's something. If you want to
And you don't have
subscribe,
to.
if you're not subscribed and you want to, there's obviously links there and you can do that. But we do not care.
Right on. So thanks again, everybody. Ghost was also saying that you guys will be on later today interviewing somebody from somewhere with the thing, place. Where'd it go? What's his show about later on?
Tonight, the Armed Citizen podcast, I believe, is Anderson. I believe it's the guys from Anderson, I think. I'm not
Where did that one go?
mistaken. I don't know. I
Where
don't
did
see
that
it.
one go? Oh, here it is.
Yeah, Anderson. I was right. Whew.
Let's see. Otherwise, what is today? Tuesday. So tomorrow, got a bunch of stuff going on. Barbecue will have a show later on today. We've got a show later on. I'm probably missing shows, but thanks everybody for show. Oh, the Cape Gunworks has a show next, I think. So
Like
they'll
say,
be on
as many shows as there are, you're definitely missing shows. That's what's insane.
for sure. Yeah. The Cape Gunworks one is interesting because that's a guest shot called 2A Tuesday on a radio show from Boston. So it's a political radio show from Boston. And on Tuesdays, they do 45 minutes with the guy that runs the gun shop in Massachusetts. So it's usually a pretty good listen. If they post it live, they stream it about half the time, I think. And then tomorrow they'll do their big show. Otherwise, there's lots of stuff to listen to and lots more to talk about with SHOT Show. You got any specific SHOT Show content coming?
No. Mm-mm. No.
I'm hoping. I was thinking about trying to do it before the show today, but I did a lunar thing. I don't know if anybody was awake for the lunar eclipse early this morning. I had some stuff happen IRL, so I did my normally late night show in the middle of the night, and it happened to be during the lunar eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
So I was gonna do some stuff kind of between shows here, and I wasn't able to. But I would like to go back and look at, kind of go back and look at where I'm at with posting pictures from the old SHOT shows, and then but ideally do a show for each year, a SHOT show, just kind of going back and thinking about it. So I
Yeah.
don't forget some of the adventures and some of the stories, but also to kind of let people know about how fun it can be when you're traveling. It's an opportunity to that. I mean, I hope people out there have traveled, but adventures are
Mhm.
what brotherhood comes from or families come from. It's like how camaraderie happens. So the
Yep.
opportunity to travel and go somewhere, I kind of feel cheated in some way. I don't because I'm cheap, but I feel cheated in some way because we just drive up to SHOT Show and I can literally bring everything but the kitchen sink. We've gone so many times that I've tried it with everything and with nothing and with everybody and with nobody, right? I've literally gone once by myself now. So, I've literally tried it because the one thing I hadn't ever done is gone by myself. So that's one thing I had never done is until last year. And I didn't really because I know everybody, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
almost that's one thing I do have that's a little bit different is I always bring people, but that's just because people have been going the whole time and they like going and they go. They don't do
Yeah.
nothing, they just go. But well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Joe does a lot of shit. But anyhow, the experience of going on an adventure, it's like why we're brothers. Like why I call it a gun website shooting team, and we're not just a couple of people that hang out. Like we've been doing stuff, going hunting. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. You go hunting, it doesn't matter if you're successful or not. Your hunting buddies are your hunting buddies or your
Yep.
hunting people, right? Same thing with maybe a race car or a band. Doesn't matter if you win the band or you win the race or whatever. I don't know what bands do, but win battle of the bands, I guess. You're still a band. You still have those adventures from the road and the stuff usually in a van. We're gonna admit it. Usually it's the best adventures are in a van, but because you're all in the same vehicle together. Like it's possible to have a bunch of fuel efficient cars travel somewhere. You're going to have a lot of individual stories to talk about at the end of the day. But in a band, everybody has the same pluses and minuses, the same experience and same adventures. But anyway, a lot of that happens at SHOT Show, and that's the part where I'm hoping that going by year after year, we can share some of that element of it
Yeah.
or aspect of it.
Mhm.
Like I say, it's not just a show. I mean, they don't pay me. I mean, it probably would for me to shut up about some of it because I'm kind of honest about it sometimes that it's not always great. But at the same time, it's fake. Everything has to be real, right? Like the reason you get better is when you have adversity and you get better through failures, right? We learn from failures and that's where successes come from. So it's
Right.
fake to suggest that it's always a win. People that are always smiling are faking it. So anyway, so the like I say, it's a pretty neat thing, and it's unlike any of the other ones I've experienced, and I try to experience at least a taste of what all the other ones are. Like I say, the NRA show is about the closest thing you can come to it, kinda. I say Wanamaker's is kind of middle because of the size and scale, but the
Mhm.
NRA show is so different because it's all NRA people. We should probably do a whole show on how a SHOT Show is different than the other shows.
They're all different. They all have their own little thing. That's the thing about it. And so it's where, as you start going to more and more of the individual ones, you start understanding how, some are more worth going to than others, right? And each one presents its own specific challenges. Each one is, they're similar in that they're industry events. Outside of that, not so much.
Yeah, it's like restaurants. They're all restaurants, but it's
Yeah,
different going to a pizzeria and a sub
exactly.
shop and a
Yeah,
and a gourmet restaurant and a kitchen or something. Yeah.
totally.
All right. All right. Well, we've been
Um,
chatting, hitting it out. Go ahead.
so yeah, I was just going to say before we get out of here because we're coming up to the top of the hour again. But G23 says don't forget to vote today if you haven't already, and I have not. But my wife and I discussed that this weekend, and as soon as she gets home, we are headed out to cast our votes here in the great state of Texas. So
Crazy. So I go right in the morning because I figure it's faster. I don't know. I was in there 23 minutes and I was bitching because I had to wait in line. I got there and I was like, I got a
yeah,
picture of it. I think I was like one, two, three, four or five old people and two regular people in front of me. Old
yeah.
people are going to take forever. They don't even,
So
sometimes they read stuff before they get there, but otherwise they get there and start reading. And this
mhm.
was a long one. We have a lot of them this year. So, but anyway, I got there early and I was out in 23 minutes.
Yeah, it won't be that bad for us, even though, will kind of be the middle of the day. And the reason is, first of all, we're in a very rural area. And second of all, the vast majority of people around here early vote because it's so rural. It's just easier to vote in town at the early voting places when you're in town one day
Yeah, I think
than
that's like that here
wait.
too.
But life happens and we got busy and it's like, man, we didn't vote early. So yeah, we got to go do that today.
I'll tell you what, I don't believe in early voting unless you have to. If you got a broken arm or something, whatever, then fine, I guess, whatever. I don't like it personally, but this was the first time we had to basically go to an ATM looking thing and sign the thing that's electric. It was all electric, all robots. Everything up until today, I had a piece of paper I had to write with a pen on in Arizona until today. And today I wrote a little thing like if I went to the place. I mean, there's still a human that points the thing at me, but I thought it was going to say 20% tip or whatever. It was like a little iPad dealie, and I had to write. I took a picture of it.
Yeah.
And there's the other thing. I got this little deal that says you can just track your ballot, and here's a little code or whatever, and you can just track it. Well, that
Right.
freaks me out because I don't like the idea of my name being tracked with it. So I don't know how I feel about all this, but that's probably why they're poking that wound, right? That's why they're poking that rift. All them people who ain't in the United States want us to quit doing this whole crazy election thing, and then there's a whole bunch of people here that want us to get frustrated. So I appreciate everybody that's willing to do it, even though it ain't perfect, right?
Yeah.
And
I've done electric here. It's been or electronic here. It's been an option for many years, maybe even a decade. And I've
really, you
always
mean you voted?
followed.
I voted with a piece of paper. It's just that all the way up until they gave me the piece of paper, it was electric. Normally, I
No,
write on a
I've
piece of paper and then they
no.
give me a piece of paper.
No, even like a decade ago here, we were able to do all electronic, no paper, except for the little sliver. That you get a little sliver with a code. You go to the machine, you put your code in, it pulls up your information and says, "Hey, okay." That way, you can make sure that whoever entered it and gave you the code entered the right information. You cast your vote, you submit it, and then you get that little slip that says you voted, and here's the code if you want to, log in and look at your ballot, to make sure it was right or whatever.
Interesting. And you've had that
Yeah.
for a while now.
Oh, we've had the option for a while, right? It hadn't been mandatory, but we've had the option here for at least a
Oh, I
decade.
see.
And I've done it
Oh,
every single
okay.
time, and I've done it every single time. And as a matter of fact, now let me preface this by saying I can't promise you our machines here aren't different than anywhere else, right? Because every precinct or whatever can have their own stuff, every state. But I've been through the training courses on how these machines here work, and you know, you could tamper with the paper stuff just as easily as you could tamper with these. I mean, it's that difficult. Like they don't hook up to the internet or anything crazy. They have to be hooked into a mainframe at the courthouse, in order to pull the data. And it's some pretty. I have a tech background in case G knows this, but people out there listening may not. And I was really impressed with the encryption and the tech and everything behind the machines that we use here. They're I would say they're about as secure as you can want them to be.
Well, I don't have anything. I don't know what to add to that. So with that one, we'll wrap it up. And well, we're at man, I just missed 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 22 seconds. So we'll just end it at this point. But that was still pretty 2 minutes and 2 hours and 2 minutes. We'll be back next week and back. Well, I got to come up with